Very good evening to you. 3 minutes past 6 the time. Tom Swarbrick here on LBC. This hour, the Siddiquis. I like the Siddiquis. There's a dad, if you haven't seen it, dad with his, I think they're his two adult sons, is that right? They're his two adult sons. They're in Derby. They've been on Gogglebox for years. And I know that because, frankly, it is years since I watched it. Although, we met Mary from Gogglebox a few months ago. That was very exciting. But I haven't seen it for a very long time. But when I was watching it, I did like this particular family. The Siddiquis. The Siddiquis. But we've learned something about the Siddiquis, in particular Sid Siddiqui, the dad. For it is being reported that the Gogglebox star took part in the Channel 4 show while being signed off with stress from his NHS job. Now, he's 80 years old, so, I mean, that he is in a job in the NHS is quite frankly extraordinary anyway, to be honest with you. But he's continued to film the series despite being absent from his part-time role as a health service environmental manager since July. He works 3 days a week, we're being told, and with the full-time salary ranging from 55.5 to 62 and a bit, his pro-rata salary, according to the Mail, would be around £35,000. Mr. Siddiqui, who has been a regular on the show since 2013, was given leave by Derbyshire Community Health Services NHS Foundation Trust on mental health grounds. His recent appearances on the TV show have allegedly caused some frustration among his NHS colleagues, one insider telling the newspaper that staff there had been left to, quotes, pick up the pieces while he is at home, quotes, on full pay. We're all under massive pressure at work. We've hardly got any staff. We're doing everything we can to keep things going. We get home after a long day, put the telly on, and there he is laughing and joking on Gogglebox. He's basically sat there with two fingers up at us while we're picking up the pieces. End quote. Both Mr. Siddiqui's doctor and his employer are said to have confirmed that there is no conflict in continuing the show because it is unrelated to his role. It is filmed outside working hours. It is deemed to be good for his mental health. So maybe part of the prescription for stress-related illnesses could be to go on the telly. Now, I don't think being signed off work with stress should mean that you can only sit at home on your sofa and watch telly all day, ironic, given what Gogglebox does. But, you know, you should probably get out and get better and go and do things that make you feel better and get your health back up and running. So if people you work with see you out and about in town one day and you're in the pub having a drink with people and they're walking past the window after finishing their work for the day, should you feel guilty because you're having a nice time while off work with stress? I don't think so, really. But there is a line, isn't there? If you've been signed off work with stress and you're on the golf course every day and you're off on holiday again and it's been months, how does your employer know that you are well enough to come back to your work? More importantly, actually, how does your doctor know that you are well enough to come back to work? So what is the line here? Is this beyond it? Bearing in mind, this man is 80 years old and he's still, he was, up until July, going into work every day, at least part-time, 3 days a week with the NHS. That's amazing. God, I hope by 80 I'm not having to work at all. I mean, that would be glorious. 03456060973. Noel McDermott is a psychotherapist and founder of Mental Health Works. Thanks for coming on the programme, Noel. Broadly speaking, what would your sort of treatment be for someone with stress-related illness? Would it be to go on the television?
Well, I think it's an existing activity here for him. So I wouldn't ask people to give up everything they've been doing.
No.
Just because they can't go to work. That would definitely make them worse. The context for this is that typically what happens, I mean, it's slightly different in this case. The guy's 80. I don't imagine he's planning to stay in work for the next 20 years. I wouldn't be at that age.
No, absolutely not.
But let's say you were 50 or something. You've got plenty of work to do and plenty of work in you. Mental health issues are such that often people don't return to the workforce, let alone their job. So something like 90% of people who go off sick with mental health issues won't return to the workforce, which is a significant problem for the UK.
Did you say 90%?
Something like that. I mean, it's quite extraordinary, the figures around this. So
say that again, Noel. I'm so sorry. 90%?
Last time I checked, I haven't checked those,
sure.
So don't quote me. But it's a significant number. The morbidity rate is really, really high. And that is because, unlike the headlines that scream about this stuff, we don't do very well with mental health in the UK from an employment perspective. And so often people will keep going, particularly in something like the NHS. There's a thing called presenteeism, which is the opposite of absenteeism, where people continue working when actually they should dial it down a bit, get some help, and think about taking some time off. And people push themselves to the point where they just can't cope anymore. And this is the more typical story around mental health morbidity and work. That's really what the figures show. So these types of headlines are sort of slightly odd. This type of situation is slightly odd. So as a nation, we have a problem with this, and it's worse. Now, mental services within employers like the NHS and other large employers that are good employers, they have occupational health, they have EAP, employment assistance programs, and they're looking for ways of supporting people so that they don't reach the point where they just have to cut off, where they have to cut and run. And they're always looking for ways that they can support people so that they can maybe step down for a while and then come back and step up again. One of the things that we know is really important, particularly around mental health issues, is that you maintain as much normality as possible in your life, rather than, get locked up in an asylum, which is what used to happen.
So the fact that he was doing this programme long before, many, many, many years before he was signed off with stress, actually it is a very, very clear diagnostic bit of practice to say, well, you can't stop doing everything. That would be a bad thing.
Absolutely, 100%. And if you were to say to him, you have to do that, you're talking about not just morbidity, which is complexity of illness. You're talking about mortality.
Yeah.
And people are not taking that on board. If you say to somebody, right, just give up everything that gives you meaning in your life, including you can't go to work anymore, there's some sort of assumption about this guy is a malinger or something. I don't think that would be true.
No.
For men in particular, men of that generation in particular, loss of work and loss of work identity is very, very serious. And we know that men that stop work tend to die within 2 years of stopping work. And if they have work taken away from them and their identity, then you're talking about mortality, not morbidity.
So, Noel, what would be the way in which, in your experience, either a psychotherapist or a doctor would be able to say to someone who had been signed off work with stress-related illnesses, right, you're clearly doing better now, your actions make it seem like you are feeling better, or is it all done on how that person says that they feel at that particular moment?
No, because work itself is of benefit to people, and that's what all the people who work in this field know. So as a professional, if somebody comes to me and says, I've got depression, the last thing I'm going to say is don't go to work, because the evidence is quite clear that being at work, being with people, having meaning and purpose in your life, being productive in society helps your mental health. Now, when it comes to stress and burnout, because the issue that is causing the distress is the work, that has to be sorted out before you can come back. And in this case, I mean, if there is a plan for re-entry into work, what you have is a graduated re-entry into work rather than just come back. So this guy's on 3 days a week. So if there's a plan, and there will be, because there'll be an occupational health specialist involved, and as well as the HR person. So an occupational health specialist has qualifications, either medical or psychological, and they'll be assessing the person and looking at whether or not they are coming back and how they're going to come back, and the graduated return to work, which would be maybe we're going to come back 1 day a week and see how that goes for a few weeks, and then we'll be back to 2 days, and then we'll be back to 3 days.
So it's an elongated process in getting back. Noel, I really appreciate it. Go on.
Slightly the opposite, maybe just one final point. Maybe what's going on here is a graduated removal, because they're aware that if you suddenly cut somebody off, you've got mortality issues. And we do have, I think, a need to be compassionate with people about their life circumstances, particularly if you're working for the NHS, right?
Appreciate your time. Noel McDermott is a psychotherapist and founder of Mental Health Works.